Got Vinny all settled in there? All right. Ready, Joe? Numbers chapter 12. Let's go. Get your iPad out there so you can write your notes in there. Lesson 58 out of Shobi. Numbers chapter 12 in our Bibles. This is the story in lesson 58 of Miriam rebelling against Moses and Aaron. All right, ready? Start reading at Numbers chapter 12, verse 1. And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. And they said, Hath the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. There's some things that we need to point out here. Moses had been faithfully leading the people through the wilderness this time. It was Moses who had the privilege of being called before God to be able to go and speak with him. Moses was given those 10 commandments on stone to carry down. Moses saw the backside of God. Now, Aaron had been a spokesperson of Moses. Aaron had done some very wonderful things, casting down that stick so that it became a snake and eating up the other snakes. He was able to take the stick over the waters of the Nile and turn it to blood, or the ponds, the pools, the buckets of water. So Aaron, he felt important at those times. Miriam too. Miriam was a prophetess. She led the people, the congregation, in their singing before the Lord. She was a musical leader. But inside Aaron and Miriam's heart is something that's no different than what's in our hearts. I and you all desire to be somebody important. It feels good when people look up to us and they see how we behave, or we do something fantastic and they come along and they shake our hand, or they give us a pat on the back. Nice job. That makes us feel good. We all want to be somebody important. Aaron and Miriam did too. They liked being in the spotlight. They liked having other people speak positively about them, to look up to them. They're jealous of Moses. Moses gets to go to God and talk to them. And when the people have a problem, they don't go to Aaron or Miriam. They go to Moses. Well, they want to have that privilege too. They want to be just as important as him. And so, what do you and what do I do when there's somebody that we're jealous of? What do? We poke holes in them. We might start spreading rumors about them. We might say mean words to them. We might judge them unfairly. We look for anything that's a little bit different about them, and we take that and we make it a big thing. Well, that's exactly what Moses or Miriam and Aaron do here. They look at Moses, their brother. They're jealous of him, and they say, what is it that we can pick on about him? What can we find? Aha! There's something that we can find about Moses. He has married an Egyptian woman, an Ethiopian, rather than taking a wife from the Israelites. Let's pick on that. Now, there's some things that we should know here. It's assumed Moses' first wife, Zipporah, has probably died, because we don't read of Moses marrying a second wife. But his first wife, Zipporah, probably had already died. This was the mother of his two sons. And now, Moses, probably before maybe leaving the land, married another woman, an Ethiopian woman. Now, we don't read about this woman, whether she was a godly woman or ungodly woman, but we can probably say it's pretty safe to assume that a man of God like Moses would find another woman who also he could see in her heart that she loved the Lord. And so he married this Ethiopian woman. Now again, all of the Ethiopians, all of those people living in Egypt, we think of them as dark-skinned, or some of them even black. But that's a term used at this time of all the people that were living there. What color or race, we don't know for sure. But she's an Ethiopian woman. And Moses has married her. And that's their complaint. Moses, in their mind, should have married an Israelitish woman. Now, the jealousy, therefore, of Miriam and Aaron boils up, and they begin to look for something that they can make fun of, or something that they can do to bring Moses down. And that's what they choose to pick on. Okay? Here they both had important callings. It appears here, and Miriam and Aaron, why is Miriam pointed out first here? Well, it's probably that it was Miriam who became filled up with sin, because we see in the end Miriam is the one that's punished. She dragged her meek. Remember Aaron? In his meekness, he allowed the people to sin, to build the golden calf. He's the same way here. He lets his older sister, who's very proud, she convinces him to come along with her to complain. She doesn't want to go alone, so she'll bring someone else that she can get. Okay? Verse 3 is in parentheses, because here they are complaining before Moses. We can imagine Moses staring down at the dirt, being a meek and humble man, not arguing and fighting back. So let's pick it up in verse 4 here. Let's see what happens. And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses, and unto Aaron, and unto Miriam, all three there, Come out, ye three, unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they three came out. And the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud, and stood in the door of the tabernacle, and he called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches, and the similitude of the Lord shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. Moses didn't say a word here to his brother and sister. He didn't have to. The Lord interjected here. This was the Lord's business to take care of, because Aaron and Miriam weren't complaining necessarily against Moses. Moses had not made himself ruler of the people. If you remember, he didn't want to be. God made Moses the leader. This is a complaint Aaron and Miriam are making against the Lord. And so the Lord needs to set them straight. Calls them to go to the tabernacle. So all three go to the tabernacle. And then God calls Miriam and Aaron to come in. And he speaks to them there. And he says, Look, To some men who are leaders, I give visions. I send dreams. That's not what I do to Moses. To Moses, I talk mouth to mouth. We speak to one another. He has seen my backside in all my glory. His face radiates and shines because of that. I will speak to Moses, mouth to mouth. He is the one that will be the leader, Miriam and Aaron. We know our Bible history. And there are hundreds of men and women who God spoke with. But He mainly spoke to them in visions and in dreams. Moses is special. He is spoken to mouth to mouth. Moses is a type of Christ, a picture. The one verse in here says, in verse 8, not in dark speeches. Sometimes when God gives visions and dreams, there needed to be interpretation yet. One could not fully understand what they meant. That's why when we had our Bible memory verse earlier this year, but I see through a glass darkly. We can see some things, but it's not clear to us. And that's the problem with most men. But God says here to Moses, things are clear. He can see what it is the Lord wants him to do and to know and to understand. God does not hide things from Moses. The anger of the Lord then was kindled against Miriam and Aaron. They needed to know what their place was in the leadership of the Israelites. And so here we can imagine Moses and Aaron looking down at their feet as though it were kicking the dust around and the rocks, knowing, just like you and I do when we've sinned and we've been called out on it, we look down. We're ashamed. And we can imagine them doing that too here, now realizing their sin. Verse 10, we see now what God's punishment is. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, Heal her now, O Lord, I beseech thee. And the Lord said unto Moses, If her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that let her be received in again. And Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people journeyed not till Miriam was brought in again. And afterward the people removed from Hazeroth and pitched in the wilderness of Paran. When God's presence lifted up from the tabernacle, there stood Miriam. Her body was now covered with a disease of leprosy, disease that makes the skin white, disease that cuts off blood flow so that fingers or toes or ears begin falling off. It's a death sentence. Aaron knows it. He feels pity for his sister. So he begs his brother Moses, Moses, isn't there something we can do? We're sorry for these sins. And Moses prays to God, God, forgive them of their sins. Let not my sister die. And so God says, yes, I won't let her die, but there must be some punishment for her. 7 days she will live with this disease. For 7 days she will have to live with leprosy, the pain, and the suffering, and the anguish. She wanted to be leader of the people. Let's now set her outside the camp because of her leprosy, where she will be all alone. We learn then that being part of the body of Christ, even the lowest part of that body of Christ, is a privilege, a blessing of God. And so Miriam has to be sent outside the camp. Do the Israelites continue on their journey and leave her there? No. No. For 7 days, the people of the camp have to stay in one place, all because of Miriam, waiting for her to be healed. On the seventh day, God heals her. We don't know exactly how or what that must have been like. Did she wake up and look down and see that everything was better? She came, presented herself, as all lepers must do, to the priest, which would have been her brother Aaron. He sees that she's cleansed. Small ceremony probably followed, and she was once again restored to the fellowship of the body of Christ in Israel. What lesson does God have here for us? We need to be content in our place in the body of Christ too. Not always looking at what others may have or what their position may be and desiring it. We must be careful of our sin of pride, that we aren't also filled with pride and desire and want to be like someone else or have someone else's position. We need to be careful. So Miriam's sin here is the sin of pride. Filled with selfishness, she wanted for herself what her brother Moses had. But it was not given to her. It was given to Moses by God. When we become proud, hopefully we can remember Miriam. Or when we want to be important, we can remember Miriam. For when we make ourselves way up here and think we're better than everyone else, most other people aren't going to want to be doing anything with us. And so just as Miriam had to be put outside the camp, what we find is nobody really wants to be our friend. When we're always filled with pride, we're bragging, walking around, I get to do this. Hey, look everybody what I did. Hey, give me the honor and the glory. Oh, I get to go first. Ooh, we're picking? I'll pick that one, the biggest one, for myself. A person like that soon finds they have very few, if any, friends at all. And they, in this situation, God put Miriam outside the camp. When we're filled with sinful pride, it's as though we put ourselves outside the camp. We put ourselves outside the camp, and nobody wants to do anything with us. I don't get it. Why doesn't anybody want to play with me at recess? Because you're always saying you caught everyone, never anyone caught you. Or you're saying you should be on this team, or you always have to have the ball. We need to be humble. We need to be meek. And then we find that even if we're the lowest, the most insignificant part of the body of Christ, it is a beautiful, wonderful blessing. Being surrounded by friends, we learn to serve them. So, if we follow God's commandment to love others before ourselves, we will find ourselves living enjoyably in the body of Christ.